Hello, everyone. Welcome. I took a little time off. I am back. Hope you enjoyed some older content there, YouTube, and anybody who stopped by Monday or Friday live. I did throw up some reruns to see how that would help keep people in their habits of showing up around here 9 a.m. weekdays Pacific to join us for some magic action. And our magic action today is going to be ahead of the big preview stream tomorrow. Before every set, Wizards has historically, gosh, I haven't even checked my, I assume there's a thing tomorrow. I should make sure I'm still on that. You know, it has now been that you don't even need to do anything. If you're in once, you're in forever. So I'm assuming I'm in, but I'll make sure I'm in. And tomorrow is when we get our first play action with Zendikar Rising. And with that, we're going to learn a lot, right? We're going to rubber's going to hit the road tomorrow, and we're going to understand a lot more about this format. For today, though, I was trying to figure out what to do today on literally the lowest trough in Magic content time in terms of the previous set, because we're one day away from the new set. So nobody's too interested in playing what's going on in the system right now, but we're all very interested in how we're going to tackle the Zendikar format. So Zendikar Rising coming up. And so I decided today we are going to do some test drafts of Zendikar Rising on mtgadraft.herokuapp.com. And we're going to use that third-party site to just do some drafts and explore cards. Now, I'm going to be on a 3-minute pick clock, so I got to come up with comments inside 3 minutes, which you'd think would be plenty of time, but with me, you never know. Anyway, we're going to cruise through and look at some cards and try to figure out what we know about this format based on just jumping in and doing some drafts. I am very light on spoilers here. I know there are land spell flip cards. That's the big, DFC, the double-faced card. The big selling point or splashy mechanic in this set seems to be that there are cards with no magic backs, just a land on one side and a land on the other side, or a land on one side and a spell on the other side, and you get to choose which side you want to play when you have it. It's a pretty powerful effect, so we'll be looking for those for sure. But we are going to, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to throw this up to, I'm going to throw a link over into chat shortly. And I'm just I'll ask 7 people in chat to jump in and do their darndest to draft a decent deck. And we'll see what we come up with in this new format as we discuss cards together. And as we look at these new cards, I want you to remember my sponsor, Card Kingdom. CardKingdom.com are purveyors of Magic cards, the physical stuff. They can't help you with MTGA contents, but they can sure help you with tabletop contents. Anything you need, singles, supplies, sealed product, pre-orders. If you see stuff in this preview day here that really gets your juices going for constructed and gets your brain tinkering with ideas for how to dominate standard, get in your pre-orders with our friends at cardkingdom.com. They're going to take care of you quickly. You're going to get exactly what you expect at reasonable prices, and the inventory is nuts as always. So please check them out. And here you all get, for my viewers, who's drafting with me? Who is drafting with me? All right, looks like we're all filled up. I'm going to hop over. As always, a little utilitarian in its presentation here, but gets the job done and gets it done well. So thank you, mtgadraft.herokuapp. Thank you, Senryoku. Senryoku here is the creator of this site, and if you enjoy this stuff today, you can buy Senryoku a coffee, which is to say, leave him a tip. Say thank you. Thank you, Senryoku, for making this awesome website. Now let's draft. All right, I haven't read these cards. You're going to be doing this with me. This is going to be interesting. Our rare is 1 and a green, Inscription of Abundance. It's an instant. It has kicker 2 and a green, so you can pay 2 or 3, or 2 or 5. Choose 1. If this spell was kicked, choose any number instead, so up to 3. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures they control, and target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Well, this looks like a really good fight card to me. It's an instant, so like it's interesting to see them putting green fight at rare, but I would probably start here in the abstract. I mean, This doesn't feel super rare to me in terms of historical card design, but the power level is here. 2 +1/+1 counters, like even just that at instant speed, like we'll play combat tricks that are a little bit better than this that are temporary. This puts 2 +1/+1 counters permanently on a creature. Oh, is this a flip card? Oh, we got to flip this card too. Yeah. So here's one of these land spells. I want to move on from this one, but I like this a lot. This is an easy place to start for sure. Umara Wizard, 4 and a blue for a 4/3. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, Umara Wizard gains flying until end of turn. Pretty clunky and expensive. But in Spells Matter, it could act a lot like a 4/3 flyer for 5, which is pretty decent. But the main thing with these cards is, of course, they flip to a land. So the fact that this can be a land when you need it or a creature when you need it is extremely powerful and makes this an early pick as well. I don't know if I don't know if this is better than our rare. But these are highly sought after picks, especially the monocolored ones. I don't know if there's gold ones, but this is just going to go to any blue deck so happily, right? So strong pick as well. Right now I'm still on the rare. Murasa Rootgrazer says green and a white for a 2/3 vigilance. You may put any basic land card from your hand onto the you may put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield. That ability tends to wear out fast. Or return target basic land you control to its owner's hand. Okay, so this looks like a signpost uncommon, gold uncommon, and says that green-white is kind of shenanigan landfall. Maybe, this allows for some instant speed landfall, which jumps out at me. Seems strong, but maybe not where I'm going to start as a gold card. I'd rather just have the green one. But that seems strong and signposty and says, hey, 2/3 for 2 is strong, vigilance is strong, and enabling landfall is strong. So clearly a big support piece right here. Umara Mystic, well, we're running out of time. Again, this is going to happen. I wish this had just no time clock whatsoever, but this is just the way it's going to be. I'm going to, rather than try to scramble on these other cards, accept that our rare is our first pick. Whoa, a little red heavy. This is one of the problems with drafting on a website that's randomizing cards as opposed to using a strict collation setup like Wizards uses, is that you can get some weird looking packs like this that are very heavy red. But let's look at some cards. Here's another land spell. So we've got ETB tapped Mountain, basically, and a 4/5 Trampler for 6. Again, these may not seem sexy. This is not a very sexy creature, but the fact that it can be a land or a creature is huge. So I think you can take these early and not feel badly about it at all. But this is interesting, but not great removal. 1 in a red, instant Sizzling Barrage deals 4 damage to target creature that blocked this turn. That's a little bit, hefty of a requirement. And it means that your creature, you did not clear the way for an attack. You specifically got blocked. Now, if you have Trample, it's like you got unblocked. But if you don't have Trample, this is not great and very, very, very narrow. You just don't want removal that requires a very specific scenario for it to be good. Like at this, I would rather have it be a single red. At least that's not as hard to keep open. I don't like that much at all. 2 in a red for a 3/1 and uncommon Trample Insect. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, GOP gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So a 5/3 Trampler on landfall. Attacks on turn 4 is a 5/3. I don't know how many ways there are to multi-landfall, but that's serious business if you can go 7/5 Trample. Evolving Wilds on turn 4 for a 7/5 Trample seems pretty real. I don't know if it's the pick here, but I like the card. A little weak without the landfall, though. And we see that, again, this is a very attack-heavy, good on offense, bad on defense, is what we see with landfall creature pumps. Shatter Skull, Minotaur. Yeah, I better at least select this, knowing that this is a fine fallback pick. 4 red. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. Right. So if you do the D&D thing, you can make this cheaper. That seems pretty interesting. I think if you can cast this for 5, you're pretty darn happy. 5/4 haste is nice and solid. Now, if you can get it cheaper than that, wow. But even 5/4 haste for 5, you're into that crocodile from Amonkhet range. So I like that. And again, I'm not making it down to the bottom of all these cards, and that's fine. We're here to talk about cards today in the context of making some picks. So don't hold me to some awesome draft here. We're just trying to read cards and talk them out. I also don't have chat up, so I don't know what people are saying, but I should get chat up better. I know I said Evolving Wilds. I just was saying I don't know what's in the set, but if there was something like that, is there any land that sacks to fetch land? That's my question. Is there any fetch land whatsoever of any kind in the set? Let me know. McKindy Stampede, another one of these land spells, right? So another fine place to be. Yeah, I haven't seen good removal yet, but here we go. We looked at the last one. I was like, oh man, 4 damage at instant, but it's so conditional. Here we go. 4 damage at sorcery, but not conditional, just wreck some stuff. I think you got to take a Thundering Rebuke here. That 4 damage at 2 mana is premium, in my opinion. What else is here? A lot of cards we can talk about. Let's look at Soaring Thought Thief, since it looks to be maybe a signpost gold uncommon. Blue-black for a 1/3 with flash and flying. Interesting. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/+0. That's a old threshold mechanic coming back without the word threshold. Whenever 1 or more rogues you control attack, each opponent mills 2 cards. So if this is truly signpost, it suggests to me that that blue-black does have a mill avenue to win, like that you can win by decking your opponent. Obviously has a rogue theme in blue-black, and maybe has a... maybe it's not even about milling them. Maybe it's purely about Oppo Threshold, because Threshold is about your graveyard, right? So this is like Oppo Threshold. How many cards are in your opponent's graveyard? And that looks... So I assume this is my signpost for blue-black, that what we're going to be concerned about in blue-black is milling Oppos until they get to 8, so that our cool blue-black cards get bonuses. And that's what I like about these signpost gold uncommons. I know nothing about this set, but I immediately feel like I know something about what blue-black is up to in the set. Living Tempest is 4 and a blue for a 3/3 flash flyer. Pretty simple, straightforward, fine. Nothing amazing, but hey, if you can get a 2/3 or worse attacking, good on you. What did we take? We took the Rebuke. Okay. Again, not really trying to draft a deck, trying to talk about cards in the context of thinking about it. But I don't... Yeah, this is not really a draft because I'm not looking at all the cards fast enough. Skyclave Plunderer is 4 and a blue for a sorcery at uncommon. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is 3 plus the number of creatures in your party. Put 3 of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So it's draw 3. And if you've got a party going, it's better selection in those 3, right? So that's good. This is somewhat of a Harbinger bellwether type card, though. How good is 5 mana draw 3? 5 mana draw 3 at sorcery speed is an interesting ability at in limited, because there are some formats where this is going to be one of the kings of the format because it's so attrition driven that you need this kind of card advantage. Or there are formats that are going to be so aggressive and so fast that if you're trying to spend 5 mana to draw 3 cards and not affect the board, you're going to get pointed at and laughed, right? Laughed at, right? So one of the things we need to do as smart limited players early on is understand that we are not capable of judging certain cards without understanding the context of the environment they're in. And so one of our jobs early on in these formats is really trying to understand the environment as much as the power level of any individual card. We can read what this does, but we don't know if it's good or not because we don't understand the pace and the tempo of this format. So, Relic Golem, 3 mana for a 6/6. We talked about this before. I'm going to pass over it quickly. I don't think this is that great. I think you have a lot of work to do before this does literally anything. However, if you do need mill, like this is a millstone that can be killed. And if you really need this ability, like basically I'm evaluating this on my need for a 3 mana artifact that pays 2 and taps to mill 2 cards and has summoning sickness though. So if I need that, I'm in. If not, I'm kind of out. Stomper. Do we have time for Stomper? Trample. Return up to 2 lands. This looks like another... green common was another landfall enabler. So green is clearly about re-enabling landfall here. Surion says it feels fine in a mill dedicated deck, but that's, like I said, right? You really need to want 3 mana for an artifact that starting next turn mills people for 2. Cleansing Wildfire, 1 in a red, destroy target land, only for 2. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle their library, draw a card. Wow! I like that card a lot. That is a constructed card, really. But so let me clarify that. But I'm glad. I think putting in a nice common control valve for stupid non-basic busto lands is pretty cool. Yes, also good point. This is not in Evolving Wilds, but you can target yourself with this and get 2 landfalls on the same turn. Play your land for the turn, play Cleansing Wildfire, get another land for the turn. Tajuru Blightblade is a 1/1 Death Touch for 1. Gotta love these. Nice and simple, elegant card. We'll be running that, I'm sure. But the value of these depends on how important the ground game is. If this is a heavy ground game type format, you love a 1/1 Death Touch for 1. Allied Assault, 2 and a white for an instant. Up to 2 target creatures each get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So you're maxing this at 4, and its value is going to fluctuate based on how party-oriented you are. But how happy are we with, if you only have 1 in your party, obviously 2 things getting 1/1 is nothing. 2 things getting 4/4 is major. Where does it fall apart? I think 2 things getting 2/2 is just about average as well. So I want 3 or 4 in my party before I'm happy with Allied Assault. Then you feel like it's actually good. I didn't see what Adventure Awaits is. We'll wait for a fresh crop of cards here. Ooh, a rare. Throne of Makindi is tap for a colorless. Tap 1 tap, put a charge counter on it, and 1 remove a charge counter, add 2 mana of any 1 color. Spend this mana only to cast kicked spells. 2 mana of 1 color. Obviously more of a constructed plant, but we'll see how that plays out in constructed. Not for us, though. That's why it's still here. In fact, if a rare comes at this point, I might as well skip it. You know we're going to take it. Scale the Heights, 2 and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. You gain 2 life. Up to 1 is so that you can gain 2 life if you need to and there's no creatures around. You may play an additional land this turn. Draw a card. Yeah, so the play an additional land gets more value in this set because of the landfall factor. But it doesn't make this a priority, I don't think. If it were an instant, of course, that would be combat trick-like, but it's not an instant. So to me, it seems pretty fillery, even though it's doing a lot of the stuff the set needs. Malakir Blood Priest is 1 and a black for a 2/1. When Malakir Blood Priest enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. More party stuff. So it's a 2/1 for 2. We're never thrilled about that, but it's kind of the lowest of the low where you're willing to say, fine, it's a curve filler, right? I have played 2/1s for 2 with no relevant rules text simply because I needed 2 power at the 2 slot. Sometimes you just need 2 power at the 2 slot and you run a Malakir Blood Priest. So its floor is playable. Not good, but playable, like D+. And then when Malakir Blood Priest enters the battlefield, it does this draining thing. I don't think it's that important. I guess if you're doing the thing, though, I could see that being powerful, but it seems more like a filler card that has a chance to jump out, kind of like that the lifelink Knight from Eldraine. You know, solid, but not format defining or anything. Hey, David and I talking about the same card there. Yeah, I have it on Smitten Swordmaster type levels. MDFC. What's MDFC? Modal double face card. I gotcha. And it's red. We're kind of red. I don't even know what we're doing yet, but let's see. This late modal flip card, which are very valuable, says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature for 3 mana. And then it deals damage equal to the sacrifice. Okay, so it's a fling, a land fling. Sure, I'm in for land fling. This kind of narrow effect is a great thing to have on a land card, because either you'll get this early as a land and want it as a land, or, I mean, maybe you'll get this early in a flood and not want it as a land, but, you know, early you tend to want to play this as a land, late you tend to want to play this as a creature, and this is a pretty good late card on that front. Let's look at another one before our time runs out. Ardent Electromancer, 2 and a red. When Ardent Electromancer enters the battlefield, add red for each creature in your party. Neat. So it has the dream of actually gaining you mana or being free. You know, like I have 3 red mana, but I got 2 other party members, and this wizard becomes the 3rd party member, and boom, I get 3 red back. So free Electromancer. That's kind of cool. Relic Golem here again, but we're going to pass that again. Snarecaster, probably, reach. 2 and a white, 2 and a green for a 1/4 reach. We've seen this many times. In fact, we've seen this at 1/5 reach. So they've really shaved off toughness, but in exchange we get a party-relevant creature type. So if you need a rogue for your green party-based deck, Snarecaster's got you covered. But I don't think... this is super... Yeah, snare can mean tap, but I think snare has also meant reach historically. I think if you looked up snare in card names, you'd find some reach. I'll select it for now. Let's look at Adventure Awaits. 1 and a green. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom. If you didn't put a card into your hand this way, draw a card. Okay, that's interesting. One of the ways to design magic cards is to ask yourself what's frustrating about an existing card, or what isn't fun about card blah, and then try to make a new card that fixes it. So Adventure Awaits, one of the things that's really frustrating about a look at the top 5 cards type card is that you can brick. Nothing feels worse than looking at 5 cards and bricking. It just feels unfair. And Adventure Awaits says, don't worry, if you brick, we're going to at least replace it. And I like that. Whiff proof, as Jinx puts it. Whiff proof is pretty cool for this type of ability, but it is still pretty wheel spinny as well. Still, in a pinch, we've been willing to play 2-mana cyclers. Think of this as a really juiced 2-mana cycler. Like imagine, 2-mana cycler, but basically you get to choose a creature from the top 5, or then take a random card. That's pretty powerful. I do like these Death Touchers, though. We have time to read something else. 52 seconds, yes. Let's look at what blood price is. 3 and a black for a sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So and you lose 2 life. So this is your black card draw. It somewhat reminds me of the black card draw in Dominaria, but that showed you 3 cards, let you keep 2 of the 3, and put 1 of them in your graveyard. That's way better than looking at 4 for a format. For that format, it was way better to look at 3 and put 1 in your yard. This one you get 4 though, so if you're looking for something specific, you're more likely to get it. So blood price seems good to me if we are in a format that's Dominaria-like, where card advantage is big, and it's very important for you to be winning some long game attrition. If it's a very aggressive format, that might be too slow. Now, just take another one of these. I'm kind of drafting red-green to be doing something organized, but I'm not saying we're doing this well. Here's this bad red burn spell. I don't know if we're even going to play this. Is this playable? Like maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think what would make me want to play this. And like maybe if I had a lot of must attacks each turn if able. Just a lot of, or lure, stuff that's making blocking more likely to happen. But I don't know if it's playable even. Yeah, Media thinks it's not playable. I think if there's a ton of stuff that kind of encourages blocking from your opponent, then maybe. And Trample. Spitfire Lagak, 3 and a red for a 3/4 landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under control, deals 1 damage to each opponent. Pretty boring. Boring 3/1 for 2 that is a D&D type. Take another Snarecaster, but we had Smite the Monsters. We know that one. I was talking about how, as far as cycling goes, Adventure Awaits seems okay, but you don't want a ton of them. We'll take it here, though, with this many cards left in the pack. Angel Heart Protector, 2 and a white for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. That tends to be at its best when you've got a board full of trades, and you can turn one of your trades into a clean attack. But if you don't have clean, if they've got good toughness and good blockers, this does nothing. And if you were already getting through anyway, this does nothing. This specifically takes trades and turns them into wins. But that's decent upside for a 3/2 for 3. Obviously, 3/2 for 3 is playable, if not exciting. Cleansing Wildfire. We talked about this one. I think I would pick this up and try it in the red-green landfall, because doing this to yourself, I mean, this is even fixing. It's a kind of weird way to look at it, but in a sense, this is red color fixing, right? Because we're playing red, green, splash blue. We get our second red source. We target one of our mountains with this and go fetch an island. Boom. Red has fixed our mana. Another Adventure Awaits. What's this Dreadworm? 4 and a black for a 5/4 with landfall. Landfall gains indestructible. That seems very solid, honestly. Maybe for black, we would like 4/5 better than 5/4. But the landfall, assuming, classically, it's okay. As a 5/4 for 5 without landfall, you're like, okay. But then with landfall, it's basically not blockable, or it's a trade off a card for no value. That seems pretty strong to me for a 5 mana black common. Mind Drain, I assume we're discarding 2. Yeah, target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So, Mind Rot, I'm sorry, you have been annihilated. I guess it's not strictly better because Mind Rot allows you to target yourself for a bunch of cleverness, right? But for all intents and purposes, for most limited purposes, Mind Drain is just strictly better than Mind Rot. Yeah, you don't expect to trigger your 5/4 landfall every turn afterwards, but a 5/4 at its base, its floor is fine, and then every once in a while it can't really be blocked, or else it's going to eat something. That's pretty good. I want to read this Lull Mage's Familiar just to learn about it. 1 green blue for a 2/4 beast at uncommon. It taps to add green or blue, so it's a 3 mana ramp spell. And whenever you cast a kicked spell, you gain 2 life. So we are learning that Kicker is a green-blue thing in this Signpost Uncommon once again, saying that green-blue is ramp to kick in this format. I like it. I'm looking forward to ramping to kick. Ruin Crab is 0/3. Is this going to be a miller? Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. Indeed. That reminds me, there's a Hedron Crab was a card back in the day. This is why I figured that this crab would also be a mill card. Looks like it's clearly related to that. Yeah, maybe we can talk to Slam Duncan about modifying the Can I Kick It memes to incorporate some of the Zendikar cards. I'll use the existing ones in the meantime, but yeah. Relic Robber here, though. 2 and a red at rare. Haste for a 2/2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player creates a 0/1 colorless goblin construct artifact creature token with this creature can't block, and at the beginning of your upkeep, this creature deals 1 damage to you. So Relic just starts piling poison. Excuse me. Kind of piling poison onto your opponent. I don't know how often it's getting in. This is a classic best case scenario mentality card in that you can totally imagine this. You're curving out on the... Your opponent stumbles and doesn't play a 2-drop. You're on the play. You drop this on 3. Crack in. They take an 0/1. Then next turn they play one thing and you burn it out of the way and crack in and you get another 0/1 and bam, now they're just draining. Boom. And that's all great. But what happens when you draw this on turn 7 and they've got a 2/4, a 3/3, and a 4/4 out? Then you're just like, so I don't even know what this is. I'm going to take this ambush instead. What did I take? I took 2 and a green, instant, target creature you control, fights target creature you don't control. And it flips to a land. Yeah, I like that better anyway. That seems awesome. I took a fight land without even looking, and it was the right pick. Here we got another flip card, though. Let's see what's going on here in our colors. Valakut Awakening. 2 and a red, instant. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. That +1 is big game, because often these types of abilities don't do the +1 and you're kind of down a card. But this being on a flip land, again, it's kind of what you want. Early on, you play it as a land and you're pretty happy with that. Later on, I'm flooding out, but no problem. I'll cast Valakut Awakening and convert it and the other cards I don't need in my hand into action. But I would note that when you are looking ahead to use a card to like turn your spare lands into action, that means you're tending to not play your spare lands, which tends to mean that I want this in a low mana count type deck. I'm really hoping to play Awakening when I'm not looking for a ton of land, but it's also weird in this set because historically we get ingrained in our heads that we're looking to late game turn our lands into spells. We don't want lands, we want spells because they're action. In Zendikar formats, in landfall formats, you can find that lands and spells are both so valuable in the late game that sometimes a card like Valakut Awakening isn't actually as good as it might seem because you don't actually have that many cards that aren't useful. Like everything has a late game value, and when everything has a late game value, being able to turn lands into spells is less valuable. So keep that in mind. But we'll put a marker on it now. We'll look at this Sproutling here, though, at 2 and a green for a 3/3 plant elemental at uncommon. Hopefully that's the floor. It's just a 3/3 for 3 at the floor. Kicker for 2 more for 1 and a green. When it enters, if it was kicked, return target card with kicker ability from your graveyard to your hand. Whoa, I love it. Yeah, that's true. Jinx does point out that its floor is cycle 3, but that's a pretty terrible floor, right? We don't like cycle 3. We don't even like cycle 2, so cycle 3 is pretty rough. But I love this Sproutling a lot. Solid, fine baseline body of 3/3 for 3 if you have the discipline to play it on curve. But picking this up late and getting a card back, 2 for 1ing not only a spell, but a kicker spell, which is likely to have the potential to be 2 for 1 in its value again. Whew. Seems good to me. Dominate asks how many of these we're going to do. As many as I can stand. Well, I'm enjoying this. I think this is kind of what I'm going to do today. I'm not sure how long my stream is going to be, but we're just going to draft our way through discussing cards. Sound good? Taunting Arbor Mage, 2 and a green for a 2/3 elf wizard. Wizard is a party type, so let's keep that in mind. Kicker 3, when Taunting Arbor Mage enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, all creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. So this is somewhat of a combo with this with that card. We haven't actually drafted any yet, but there's the bad removal spell that requires blocking that this could be part of. But this doesn't seem great to me. I think Kicker 3 to get 1 creature to have lure is, I don't know how good that is. unless I have a specific idea of what's getting lured and why. And then we just have a Rabid Bite here, though. That's the thing. I don't see why we should take anything cute when we have Rabid Bite. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Boom. Simple. Love it. Want it. We have kind of bad removal here in Molten Blast. I would probably play one of these, but 3 mana for a shock, obviously not great. But the backup plan of getting an artifact, not the worst. Vastwood Surge, in the meantime, being called amazing. Let's read this one before we finalize our pick. 3 and a... I've never seen this card. 3 and a green for a sorcery with kicker 4. So at 3 and a green, what do we get? Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle your library. Already great. We've seen cards that have this and have cycling. Anyway, 4 mana, fetch 2 lands is a historically good green card. And then we get... If this was kicked, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Each! That is a payoff. That's a go-wide payoff right there. I think I'm still going to take Rabid Bite. This is kind of like taking that, if we go back to Dominaria, well, the green didn't have good removal, but it'd be like taking a good, good black removal spell over like the, all your creatures get +2/+2. At uncommon. I like the Rabid Bite more, but this is a very good card for the right deck. Into the Royal. Speaking of Dominaria, this is the OG. What do they call it in Dominaria? Blink of an eye. So basically, we have Blink of an eye back in its original form, Into the Royal. Fantastic card. Really loving the blue-green kicker deck that I'm seeing. And it's a little late for us to get into it, but of course, we're not going to actually be playing these out, so it doesn't really matter. But my inclination is almost to lean into, to head towards this blue-green that seems open. But I'll stick with the red-green we have going just to continue a cohesive deck. But I love, so far, the blue-green kicker deck that I'm seeing. Spikefield Hazard, another land. These are going to be just so easily pickable. Like, my question is, and I'll put it to chat, how many of these is too many? If I said I'm going to give you a random, you basically have a huge assortment of these land spells. How many are you running in a given deck? Say a mid-range deck, Anyway, Spikefield Hazard, what does it do? Instant. 1 damage to any target. Yeah, this, again, maybe it's a little too narrow. This seems like it's going to be more land than spell. But boy, if you can get something, that's okay. Yeah, you don't want to play a tap land every turn, though, right? Says Nova. So A-Funk says, as many as you can get. Okay, I give you 17. A-Funk, are you running 17? Every one of your lands enters tapped. Jank says, yep, give me 17. I mean, maybe that's correct. It's just the question of exploring, right? Jink says 3 to 4 max. Let's see, what's a new card we can look at with 17 seconds? Here's a Akum Hellhound for a red mana for an 0/1. Landfall, whenever it enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So this is a functional reprint in red of a white card that was an original Zendikar and was super, super aggressive. We'll probably see that red card I just passed in Constructed a lot. Yeah, 22 plus, whatever. You give me your number. You'd run 22 of those as your land base. Stomp links instead of step links. Ha 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 ha. Relic Amulet, 2 mana for whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, put a charge counter, remove a charge counter for 2 mana, remove all charge counters from 2 and it deals that much damage to target creature. Huh. This seems like an interesting build around. Spells matter build around. I mean, we're far away from it, but I hope we do this eventually. Because you don't need to do it too, like, let's say over the course of a game, after casting this, you cast 5 instant sorceries or wizards. and you kill 1 2 toughness creature and 1 3 toughness creature. That'd be pretty good. What else we got here? Kazandu Nectar Pot. 1/3 for 2 landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Seems very mediocre, but not worthless. If you need a 1/3 for 2, this one is a reasonably control-y card. And when is this good? If the format has a lot of 2/1s that are aggressive, then this becomes much, much better. We'll see. Ascetic at 4 and a green for a 5/4. Whenever Turn Timber Ascetic enters the battlefield, you gain 3. Seems pretty generic, and I hope not to run too many of these, but it feels like you could do worse. It's just these days a 5/4 for 5 is just kind of baseline. Like we saw a 5/4 for 5 out of black at common with upside. So given that black is getting these stats, I don't think gain 3 is that big a deal. Scorch Rider can gain haste. I'll still take it. Well, it looks like I took Scorch Rider. Stomper. I think we looked at this before. 5 and a green for a 6/5 Trampler. Fine start. And when it enters the battlefield, return up to 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Is this a benefit or is this a drawback? That is the question. Ideally, if you are so landfall heavy and 6 is your top of your curve, then it's really a benefit. Oh yeah, it says up to. Sorry, thank you. Up to means that. Then I like this a lot. It's not even a drawback, right? If returning the lands is a drawback, you don't have to do it. So really, let's compare this to our friend the Colossus. You know, the 6/6 trample for 6 that appears in so many sets. First, that's double green. So for an extra green, you get an extra point of toughness, but here you get a chance to augment your landfall. So I think from a set standpoint, this is going to play a little better than the 6/6 for 6, depending on the removal. If there's a lot of 5 damage removal, like one of the things that made the 6/6 for 6 so strong in M21, for example, is that all of the burn damage at lower rarities went up to 5, right? Like it tended to be 5 points of damage or less. So 6 points of toughness was a real point in the curve. And we'll see if that matters. And yeah, so these expensive green cards get worse as the removal gets better. So the big disaster for you playing the Stomper is that you run out a 6-mana spell, 6-mana creature. Your opponent spends 2 mana to kill it, 3 mana to kill it. If that's happening on curve, you might fall so far behind on tempo at that point that you just lose to being overwhelmed. So it can be risky to put a lot into this, but still seems pretty darn good for landfall enabling. Veteran Adventurer, we have another 6-mana spell. This one's a 5/5, and it says it's also a Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, and Wizard. So this Adventurer gets to fill out your party in whatever way you need. That's nice. And this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So this seems like a good, powerful build around for the party stuff. Because you only need 1 other party member out, and then you get a 5/5 for 5 with Vigilance, which, as we said, if 5/4 is kind of your baseline, then 5/5 Vigilance is like above that. So it really only takes 1 other party member to make this fine, and then if you can get 2 out before turn 4, that's the question. Can I get 2 other ones out before 4? Because if I can spend 4 mana for a 5/5 Vigilance, then I am super in. So build around, but a really good fine build around targets. ALS points out that yes, bouncing quote lands to your hand in this format can mean bouncing spells. So extra action there for that 6/6 for this one that we took. Or do we take it? Yeah, for the Stomper has extra value for returning spells to your hand. Anyway, I wanted to look at this Cleric of Life's Blood with 17 seconds here. White black for a 2/2. Whenever another Cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So I see Cleric mattering and life gain mattering. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Cleric of Life's Bond. All right, more signpost uncommon. So we have, shockingly, white-black is life gain matters. Life gain matters in white-black. I don't even know how to put my poor little head around it. Shadow's Verdict can't be very good if it's a rare that's still here. Exile all creatures and planeswalkers with converted mana cost 3 or less from the battlefield, and all creature and planeswalker cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from all graveyards. Yeah, a weenie sweeper for 5 mana seems a bit slow and not really made for limited. What is this? Spare Supplies, 2 mana artifact. Spare Supplies enters tapped, and when it enters, draw a card. So 2 mana, replace itself, not a bad floor. And 2 tap, sacrifice, draw a card. So 4 mana for 2 cards on the installment plan, and really on the forced installment plan, which is to say, if you have 4 mana, you can't do this all in the same turn because it enters tapped. I'm not excited about this for 2 cards for 4 mana, although even, yeah, it's not the worst at that. I play that in blue sometimes, and I'm not, but usually it has something else going on with it. I think this comes down to speed of format again. If we turn out to be a slow format, Spare Supplies is going to be fine. If this turns out to be speedy, I'm not sure you're going to have time to mess around with that. We also have Jaraga Visionary here. 3/2 for 4. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Like, I kind of just like that. You know, if I'm going to get a 2 for 1, let's just make a 4 mana creature that affects the battlefield in my colors. It's a party creature. Did I take that other party creature? No, he took something else. Oh, no, I did. Yeah, so, like, I mean, this deck isn't even really trying to do it, but we might end up there just with Snarecasters and Visionaries and Blight Blades. Like, we're kind of getting there on the party thing on accident. Ruin Crab for you evil folks. You can mill them out. I don't think we need another Snarecaster, though. I don't think we need another Adventure Awaits. None of these cards really make this deck for us if we were actually going to play it. Maybe I do just take another... yeah, I'll take another Snarecaster. Not the worst. If we're looking to go long and advantage ourselves with landfall. Another Stomper. Kind of running out of room for 6s, though. Maybe we'll just look at some other cards here. Again, here's a... this is going to be a little gluey type, a glue card. This 2 mana warrior. Because a lot of these synergies look like they want a party creature on 2 and a party creature on 3 for some great party blowout, some party curve out on 4, you know? Let's look at a different card. 3 and a white for a 3/3 Hill Giant here. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature in your party. Another party card. And I don't know if that's good enough. A 1-time bonus for a Hill Giant. I mean, we saw that in like the, was it Rubble Belt? No, what was the Ogre? There was an Ogre in like Guilds of Ravnica that was a 3/3 that entered and gave something +2/+0. I guess the toughness here is helpful. Yeah, I take it back. Toughness is a big game. Toughness can create situations where you didn't have an attack, and now because of the Outrider, you do. Whereas power only doesn't, you know, sometimes takes trades. So maybe that's more playable than I'm giving it credit for on first blush. This Outrider. Aggro matters, though. This doesn't really do anything on, you know, on defense. If you're behind, if you're playing D, a Hill Giant's pretty bad. I mean, it'll block something, but it's not exciting, right? So just keep that in mind. It's really the on offense where you're happy about this. Maybe this is where you take some Spare Supplies. Blood Price seems black is pretty darn open. I think Blood Price looks fine if the format is slow enough. Seafloor Stalker is 2 and a blue for a 2/3. 4 and a blue. It gains +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each creature in your party. So it really costs 4 and can get a lot cheaper. Yeah, the party thing is interesting. There's some cool synergies. I like that you don't need 4 to turn it all on. It's just like something that lowers costs a little bit here and there. Yes, Dibbligs, you can, but we don't even have these cards on the system yet, so it's not like we could challenge with these and play. We could do it later, but I'm unlikely to come back and play these decks later on stream anyway. With 25 seconds, we can look at this mace. 1 black-red for an equipment. When it enters, attached to a creature you control. So free attaching. That's nice. And it gets, equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each creature in your party and has menace. And it has pretty expensive equip. This clearly just means that nobody's in red-black, because it seems totally playable. Just throwing it, you know, I would run that. Let's look at this Gouldraw's Mucklord. 2 and a black for a 2/3. When it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Interesting, a little more defensive. We've seen this on a 3/2. Now we're getting on a 2/3. Similar power. Like, you're going to run this in your black decks probably and not be too unhappy about it. Although I think the 3/2 was maybe a little better. Depends on how 2/3 lines up. So much of what I expect out of cards and how good I think they are given a format just depends on how their power toughness lines up with what's important. And that's the type of thing we don't know till we play. Take this Relic Golem and not worry about it. Pack 3, pick 1. We've got an on-color rare, and it's a flip. I don't even know what it does, but I bet we're taking it. I mean, I like these anyway, and this is a rare one. Let's see what it does. 1 green for a 3/3. I mean, it'd have no more rules text. I would love it if it were a land that could be a 3/3 for 3 if we wanted. But it's more. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Mammoth gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This is a very, very simple rare. And I think the game needs those, so I don't mind. Simple rares. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a flip card in and of itself. DFCs on the face of things are not simple, no pun intended. But this is an especially simple execution. But I like it. We'll take it. I mean, what else? We could take Rabid Bite. Maybe we think Rabid Bite is better. MTG Hogwarts set. I don't think Wizards of the Coast wants to go anywhere near J.K. Rowling's brand right now. Wizards got problems of their own on that front. I'm gonna take the rare over the Rabid Bite. Interesting. Scoot Swarm. This is Scoots historically in Zendikar have been about lands in play. Let's see what this is. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. Is this good? I guess so. I mean, when are we happy? We're happy on like our 4th land afterwards. Pretty good for go wide. Yeah, I suppose if you're doing something, I want to be doing something with 1/1 tokens before I'm super happy with this. And we have like, we passed one or something. There was the or is it this one? Yeah, target creature. There's stuff to pump all your creatures that I would like this with. Maybe I would take this and try it, but I'm kind of interested in this ramp land here. And we got a green-red uncommon. We are green-red, so let's see what this signpost uncommon tells us. Maybe we're going here. Brushfire Elemental is red and a green for a 1/1 haste. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Landfall. Huh. That feels more constructed-y to me. Is that really what green-red is doing in this set from a limited standpoint? Feels like it's been like landfall, long game advantage landfall, not landfall, I'm going to get you landfall. I think I'll leave it on Scoot Swarm over the Elemental here. Here's an interesting one. Zendikar, 3 and a green to enchant a land. Enchanted land is a 4/4 elemental creature with reach and haste. It's still a land. This looks like a 4-drop, but really it's a 5-drop. And when land dies, you get it back, though, so that's fine. But really, this is a 5-drop because you want to cast this on an untapped land so that it can attack. I'll try the Scoot Swarm, but I'm really pretty enamored with this. I really like this Florahedron here. I like the land or ramp spell. Land or more land, depending on what you need. But we'll try the rare. Here's one I just passed. We could reserve for possibilities here. I got a new uncommon to look at, though. Iridescent Horn Beetle is 4 and a green for a 3/4. At the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each +1/+1 counter you've put on creatures under your control this turn. For each. Pretty underwhelming as a 3/4 for 5, so you really need to be doing this thing. We are kind of doing that thing. Are we doing it enough? I don't know if we're doing it enough. Like, there seems to be a +1/+1 counter theme in green, but we're not really doing it. So I don't think this is us this time. I think we are on Florahedron right now. Let's look through some. What's this? Deliberate. 1 and a blue. Instant. Scry 2, then draw a card. So, an instant speed, what do you call it? Instant speed busted scry card. 2 mana, big difference though. Still, we're going to run this. Preordained, thank you, chat. I don't remember card names. I'll leave that to chat. Instant speed, 2 mana preordain. Probably fine. I think it's worse than Omen, right? Omen, this is just like strictly worse than Omen in many respects. Omen does the same thing, but triggers enchantment fall and allows for the scry. This would only be better in Instants of Sorceries Matter situation. Yeah, the draw card can matter too. Let's see, what else are we looking at? Molten Blast. Maybe this is a Molten Blast. Well, I'm going to take the ramp flip here. But I would take a Molten Blast. It's just not a priority. And this Nectar Pot, same thing. I'm going to take that. Vastwood Surge. Here we go. If we had more Vastwood Surges, I would like the +1/+1 counter stuff a little more that we just had here. But Vastwood Surges seems pretty great, especially with that rare we took. And we're also doing potentially other things to get maybe that +1/+1 counter or +1/+1 token maker will come around. I don't know. Spitfire, what's this? Gnarlid Colony. We got a grizzly bear, folks. It's got kicker. Kicker of 3. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And it does the thing where small stuff gets trampled. Maybe we want that. We got some 2s, but we don't really have 2-drop creatures that I've been happy with, so I think we take it over the Surge here, which is support for a go wide. Surge is fine, but I think we can use the creature 2s here in this one. Yeah, I love grizzly bears with really solid upside, and a grizzly bear that can be a 4/4 for 5 and gives a 4/4 trample for 5 that gives other stuff trample seems great. Skyclave Geopede, we saw this one earlier. We could play that, but what else is there? Yeah, looks like red-green is just all kind of being landfall aggro here. I think we'll leave it on Yeah, maybe I try the Hellhound. I guess maybe red-green is being more aggro than I'm giving it credit for, and we could try and lean into that. I just feel like they have some high-end stuff, too, going on. What'd you tell me, Haj? Ah, that's what you told me. Yes, that landfall, and that's a design trick. Haj is pointing out that the RG landfall, RG is landfall aggro, and most of the landfall is +2/+2. And doing that gives players some mental shortcuts for processing the action on the boards if they know that all the red stuff does that, you know? Interesting. Little pump, Inordinate Rage, 1 in a red for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+2 until end of turn, scry 1. That seems playable. Spring Mantle Cleric is 5 mana for a 2/3. Better do something. When it enters the battlefield, with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So baseline for us, it's like a 4/5. That's not great. I'd rather just take the Rage here, I guess. Slapshot, I don't like the barrage. It feels too narrow. It feels like you have to do too much setup to resolve that for good effect. Because you need to hold up 2, Slapshot. What are we doing? We're holding up 2, and then it doesn't work, or they don't. I don't know. I'm not into that one at this point. You're gonna have to show me that I need to care about it. I could read new cards, but I'm just going to cruise to the end of this draft here, and we will try to force different colors next time and get into a different archetype. Mantuka, I know how the card works, but do you see why it's not that great? You have described that in order for this card to do anything, first of all, you need blocking to have happened. So I prefer that my removal, like this one, doesn't need blocking to have happened. It just does 2 damage to something, right? That's what we want. We just want to fire off 2 damage somewhere. And also, if it has to have had blocking happen to do anything, it means blocking has happened. So that means damage that I was trying to get through is not getting through. You would much rather destroy that 2 damage, 2 toughness creature, get it out of the way, and connect rather than have that 2 damage creature block, stop your damage, and create this narrow situation where your spell finally works. I didn't look too closely at the haste wall there. Sorry, I was talking about other stuff. I'm sure we'll come across it again later. Here's that Dreadworm I thought was pretty good for a black common. Allied Assault. Reasonable combat trick, but we're not going there. We don't need any of this stuff. I don't think we're ever playing a 12th Stomper, but whatever. I guess we'll take a 12th Stomper. How about 13th Stomper, though? Sure. I'm going to ignore these white cards rather than try to get into a whole new color here. New emote options. I wonder what those look like. I'll never know. Yeah, we'll take a Nectar Pot. Maybe we have to run it for filling out curves, but it doesn't seem like what this deck is up to. I suppose someday I'll figure out what they do. We'll take our 400th Stomper. Stomp, 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 stomp. Now I kind of want a 6th one. Just round it out. 6 power, 6 drops. So yeah, I have no idea. Oh, there we go. I got it. We got it, gang. Gotta run all these Stompers, obviously. Well, you know what? I could use a little bio break as this draft winds down. I'm going to let you here. I'm going to go like this. Pull this up a little bit. You can stare at this beauty for a few moments, and I'll be right back and we'll draft again. Okay, hold on.